Whenever someone ever makes the claim that there is law from the Old Testament, moral law that we're required to follow, I often hear people refer to other types of laws that we don't follow today. Laws relating to what clothing we wear, what foods we eat, how we worship, etc. And so the question becomes, or the accusation becomes, you're just picking and choosing what you want to do or what you're against, but if it's something you want to do, you'll say it's okay. If it's something you don't do, you'll say it's wrong. It's a sin. That's not how we interpret the Bible. We are responsible to interpret the Bible rightly, properly, and accurately. So the question becomes, how do we interpret, what laws of the Old Testament do we still obey today and what don't we? Here's the answer. In the Old Testament, there are three types of laws. One are the moral laws. These are laws that apply to our behavior for all people for all time. Secondly, there's what we call the civil laws of Israel. These were the punishments that would be given for people who broke the moral laws if they were living in Israel. And thirdly would be what we call the ceremonial laws. These were laws about how the Jewish people were to worship God, and they governed the worship for the Jews. And so, in our day, we are all required still to follow the moral laws. For instance, don't murder. Don't commit adultery. Don't steal. Don't lie. These are moral laws. They apply to all people all time. The other two apply to the Jews of ancient Israel. For instance, laws like if you steal, you've got to pay back 4 times as much. Some of the laws relating to capital punishment and so forth. Those were laws that related to ancient Israel. They don't necessarily relate to us because we don't live in ancient Israel. And we have our own code of punishments and sanctions for breaking certain laws. So whereas in that example, it's still wrong to steal because that's the moral law, the punishment for it is determined by the particular culture and society in which we live, not necessarily by the ancient biblical text relating to Israel. And then finally you have the ceremonial law, such as don't eat certain seafood, don't eat pork, how your garment, don't wear garments of mixed fabrics, don't sow 2 seeds in the same field, things of this. These were civil law. Don't touch it. If you touch a dead person, you can't go into the temple till the next day and after you wash and so on. These were ceremonial laws that governed the worship of the Jews in their temple, designed to show they're holy and they're to be separate from the world around them. They're not to mix their fabrics because they're to be pure to the Lord. They're not to mix their seeds. They're to be pure to the Lord. They're not to go in the temple if they're unclean because they're to be clean and holy to the Lord. These are not necessarily laws that govern our moral life today, but they were laws that governed the ancient Jews in their worship in the temple. As such, they don't apply to us today. Jesus brought a new covenant by which we live, and this old covenant laws, we are no longer under it, and so we all obey the moral laws, but the civil and ceremonial are no longer for us Gentiles. This is the proper way to interpret the Old Testament laws.